Command-Alt-0 zooms you out to see all of your artboards. I'm going to use my magnifying glass to zoom in to this artboard here. Now if I start working on this artboard, I could also Command-0 and it'll automatically bring me to just this artboard full screen. So once you have your grid pattern set up, you're going to use our best friend in the whole program, the pen tool, and you're going to start to use it to draw lines. Now we're going to do line patterns first. You're each going to do 3 line patterns, and then you're going to do 3 shape patterns, and then 3 mixed. So for the line patterns, you got to use the pen tool. I'm going to start right here. Whenever you start here, it would have to, like your line would have to end here. So for example, if I were to do like maybe this kind of shape, there's a couple ways I could do it. So I'm going to show you a couple quick ways. I could just continue, and I didn't have to land there. It actually doesn't matter where you're landing except for the beginning and the end, because we're creating a pattern that's going to repeat. So this is just one tile that we're making within the pattern. So if, for example, I end this line however I want, but at the end, the very end, and notice by the way, since I'm making it a curved line, I have to shut off my anchor points. I'm going right to this exact point here, and that way, and I'm trying to like aim the line the right way, so when it like connects to here, it'll look like a smooth transition between this tile and the next tile. So that is one way to make a line. But you could tell that it's not even, like the bumps are different. There's this valley is twice as wide as this little valley here. So that's still one option though. That's the easy way. If you're one of those people that needs to make an exact pattern, I'm going to show you another option. So let's Command-Z this step up to this point. I'm going to land right on the intersection here, and I'm going to make this as smooth transition as I can. I'm going to try not to go below that line. So I ended it right there. Now if I take my selection tool, this way is also really easy too. I'm going to use my duplication trick, which is holding the Alt button and duplicating another one and having them join. So I'm having them just barely touch each other. And I'm going to do that over and over and make sure that it says intersect as I'm doing it. You can see that. So as I like hit these lines, it should say, if I do it correctly, it should say intersect, and then I let go. Okay, so I saw that just this tiny part is a tiny bit off, so I'm going to cheat a little bit here and just drag that to the line so I know that it hits that spot. So these are, for the most part, very, very similar to the naked eye. You can't even tell that they're different. So now I have all these line segments. If I select them and hold down Shift, I could select through all, there's 4 in this case, of them, and then I could go to Object, Path, Join. Alright, so now that all those 4 line segments are joined, you can see that they're all one line. I'm going to Command-Z those movements because I want it to be right back where it was. It's very important that this stays here and this stays here. I don't want to accidentally move it. So now that those are at that point, I could do whatever I want to this line to make it cool and more fun. I could change the color, like for example, this is a line by the way, so it won't have a fill. In fact, my fill should be nothing while I'm working with lines. Otherwise, it's going to end up like white blobs. Actually, I'm going to keep that up there just so you can see what happens when I do it. And then maybe I'm going to make this green. And then maybe I'm going to add, I don't know, this to it. Okay, so that's my, my line for that one. All right, now, although I said originally that I didn't want to go below those lines, this is going to be okay, because once you do whatever stylistic thing you're going to do to your line, there's a whole bunch of stuff, especially in artistic, that's really fun to go through, so look through those. But you can go through any of these to make your line, or you could use the ones that are in here. Also, you could change the thickness of the line so it varies, or whether or not that's uniform, and you could, of course, change the stroke. All right, so once you have your first one done, all you have to do is Alt-click and carefully place them exactly where they need to go, okay, in your next lines. So I'm creating a line pattern of 4 lines, and they perfectly go from one side to the other, and that's exactly the way you want it to be. All right, so I'm going to color this in just to show you what it looks like. I'll be right back. Okay, so I traced my artboard so I could create this background and send it to the back. I made some other changes, but nothing you should worry about. And you can see that because I have a fill on these lines, things are weird. So you want to go to your fill and turn that off. And this is your line pattern for the first pattern. The only other thing that I want to mention about this is that grouping is not the same as joining. When you're working with a path, you're joining the anchor points, and that's important for this line to be the way it is. So make sure that you're not grouping the lines. What I am going to do though, now that my pattern is complete, I'm going to use my selection tool and select the entire artboard with everything on it and Command G it so that pattern can't get messed up. So now as I'm telling you that you're going to move on to your second line pattern here, you're thinking to yourself, oh my, I'm going to have to do that entire grid again. You're actually not. Here's what you're going to do. And because I'm slick like that, I already grouped all of this. I'm just going to move this right over into my second artboard. I'm going to use my arrow keys to make sure it's perfect to the pixel of where it's supposed to be. And then I'm just going to go back to this board and I'm going to start creating my second pattern. Okay, so this is my second line pattern, and I left this here so you could see what the line actually looks like. I did the same thing where I joined line segments so it repeats and perfectly. And the only thing that I really changed is I did these vertical. I'm going to tell you right now that you don't want to do diagonal ones, and I'm going to tell you why later. But you just want to do horizontal and vertical for now. This is horizontal, this is vertical. You're going to be able to make the existing horizontal and vertical ones diagonal, so don't make diagonal ones now. It's going to create problems for you, just don't do it. So now you're wondering how I made this awesome fade, and I'm going to show you. I had the box selected, and I went over here to my gradient tool. This is like a separate toolbar, and you can mess with your gradient here. I'm going to Command Z everything I show you now because I want to keep it what it is. The only thing that really matters in a gradient is that this color here is the same as this color here. So you can see that I have this color and this color the exact same. So let's say this wasn't the same color. I'm going to double click that so I could change it to blue. When these two connect, there's going to be a harsh transition there. It's going to be flat blue and then suddenly it's going to be green. So right now, this is a totally different color. I'm going to go ahead and pull this right off, and I'm going to go to this one, and I'm going to alt click with my selection tool and duplicate this over here. So I know that they're the exact same color and the fade will go throughout the entire pattern. Remember, the patterns that you're making is only one section of the pattern that you'll potentially see. All right. Other than that, how did I get this awesome stroke? Well, I'll give you a hint. It's in here under artistic, so you're going to have to do your best to figure out what that is by exploring. So that's how I created this pattern. I'm now going to move this pattern down to my third box and come back to this to make my next line pattern. For this one, I wanted to try to do something crazy. I don't know if this is actually going to work, and we're going to find out together. So this is my first line. You can tell that if I tried to alt click in and drag it, it's going to go off my page, which I really can't have happen. So what I have to do is, this is considered a vertical line, by the way, because it starts at the top and ends at the bottom in the correct spaces. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click my selection tool to release me from that line and go back to my pen tool to make my second line. And I'm going to have this one go all over the place too. These are my three line patterns, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring first I'm going to group them individually, so I'm going to make sure they're grouped, Command G to group. And then I could just move them down to my lowest squares, using my arrow keys to get them exactly where they should be. I should probably have done something with the lines to make it a little bit more exciting. I guess I will really quick. So I'm going to go back to this one. I got to Command Shift G to ungroup it first. And then I'm just going to collect all my lines and do something more fun with them. So I should mention that some of the strokes that I picked, and see how they go off the page, that's actually a problem. So you want to make sure that you pick something where they don't go off the page. They have to be limited to their square that they're in, their artboard. Make that one school colors. There you go. That one's crazy.